Did you kind of plan for this to be a companion piece, or was this something to stand on its own?
I think by its sort of very nature, it was meant to be a companion to the narrative series. It's, obviously the doc is the story from which, the show is based off of. So yeah, like something like a little bit a deeper, a different take for the audience to understand, the sort of complete story, as far as we could take it. Because the show's only up, they haven't left Detroit yet. So but yes.
Kind of wondering, there were a lot of different stories that we got to see. Did you want to approach this originally as a linear approach, or was there specific stories that you knew for sure you wanted to include?
I think, as with all sort of filmmaking or documentary filmmaking, from my perspective, it's an exploration of going to discover things, I guess. And BMF is always, in my mind, been surrounded by so much like mythos and hearing about it in rap music, or they've achieved this status where you don't know what the truth is. So there wasn't particular stories. One thing was, like, I did want to know, like, the veracity of everything I'd ever heard in music about them, like sort of the outlandish things. But there wasn't stories that I think that we were like, gotta get that particular anecdote or that sort of thing. Everything kind of unfolded in a way that I think made sense to us as filmmakers, and I think is conveyed on screen.
Now, the Flenorys are deeply involved with this. We have the tape recordings from the jail interviews. What I wanted to know was hands-on approach to how they wanted to be seen or portrayed.
From my understanding, Meech was very open to this being in like an honest portrayal of the situation, which is why I don't think the piece delves into like hagiography or glorification, and why we have different opposing sides to law enforcement, etc. Speaking on it, so I my impression always was, and comes from, like, there was never really people that he was like, don't talk to them, and that's the true telling of if people are trying to obfuscate the truth, and when you're making things, I think.
Now, there was one part where people was not going to talk about, was the shooting. So was there any other kind of to get more information about a certain situation?
I mean, there were situations that, a lot of times people aren't, especially in this world, from my experience, aren't really comfortable speaking on things that they were not actually present for or there, just because of the ramifications of that. Also, obviously, murder, there's no statute of limitations on crimes of that nature, but also I don't think the salacious, very criminal details were anything that we were after specifically, because you can go down that path and then it just becomes like something that a wormhole in which you're losing the larger plot, so to speak. So yeah, we didn't have that many like 2020 moments with folks, because we were kind of crafting a narrative that didn't lean on that, I guess.
So then, kind of watching this, do you view this as a redemption story, or is just this is what happened and these are the facts?
I think the most redemptive part of it, I think it's an explanation of how BMF came to be and how these characters built this empire, their effects on the cities that they existed within, specifically Atlanta, and without sort of glorifying the nature of their business, which is it's built on addiction and things of that nature, which are obviously negative. The most I mean, when we talk about redemption, I kind of see their fathers, dreams of becoming an entertainer, a musician, and Meech's dream of being in the entertainment industry. He built this empire that was illegal, and then his son being the redemptive quality in all of it. It's kind of like everything came full circle. Like his father didn't really make it. Meech made it in a completely different way, beyond any sort of level of success that most people could even think about, but still wanted a legitimate dream. And here you have this kid who's working really hard, who's he's that legacy sort of manifested in a positive way.
Right. I was really interested is the beginning. The beginnings of this is something that we see daily with I'm tired of being poor. I need, resources, and this is the life that I ended up choosing because of money. Do you view this as something that has something to say larger to opportunities that's not given to the Black and brown communities?
I think that, yeah, like you're completely correct in that it's a well-worn path. I think specifically the Detroit of it all provides a little bit more context than maybe just I'm poor, I'm going to do a crime type thing. Detroit was the land of opportunity for millions and millions of Black people, and it was a culture and a society which rewarded hard work because there was jobs available, and there was a path to a middle class, and in the plants and whatnot. And for them, the Flenorys, to move to the city right after, like, that sort of chapter was, like, that door was closing right after the riots, provides an understanding of like the environment that they were thrust into, an environment that once was thriving, and where opportunity wasn't completely out of reach in the culture that surrounded them. So I think the Detroit of it all kind of gives a little bit more foundational understanding of some of the decisions that were made.
Right. Have also, you touched upon the music industry and how it relates to Magic City as well. Can you talk about
the clubs in Atlanta, strip clubs in Atlanta? They were the basis of all of that, and obviously not obviously, but the relationship with strip clubs in Atlanta is different as it relates to the city than it is in most places in America. Like, it's a different.
So 12:35.
so sorry, it's like a storm
No.
and everything's a mess.
Yes.
Good. We were talking about the music industry that you highlighted and how it was fueled also still today, because a lot of time has passed. We have different technology and everything else.
I think that well, first and foremost, like, Atlanta's relationship with strip clubs and that industry is very unique. It's not kind of like a dirty place where old men go. Like, people take their families to the club, you go eat there. It's a completely different sort of relationship, maybe not their entire family, but relationship that exists there. And during this particular time, I think that BMF were so part and parcel of all that, and the music and everything that was happening in Atlanta at the time, which is birthed this cultural mecca that we know and love today. In an analog world, that was a very easy place to break records and do things today. Because of the way that the world has changed, I can't speak to say that it's the same, because you can hear a song anywhere now. Back then it was a little bit more difficult. But I mean, in the past 5 years, I've been outside of this project. I've been to a strip club in Atlanta and seen somebody come in and pay the DJ like a ton of money to play a song. So I mean, it still exists. But I don't know to the level at which, like, you know, the record industry is trying to, you know, press upon DJs to break records. Actually, I'm wrong too. I'm wrong about that, because I remember I did a documentary about City Girls, and I remember they broke them, like they were broken in the clubs in Miami. I remember that.